Thank you, brave souls. You know, this is great. I'm really proud of you because you're looking at the program and I'm thinking, 15, maybe 20. 15, maybe 20. There's a lot of good information at this conference, and I promise you that the next 45 minutes, we're going to give you some information that you're not going to get that can be interpreted through some of the hard numbers of the transaction, but are just as important in the success of your merger or acquisition process as any of the hard science stuff that you can do. So buckle up. We're going to both talk at you. We have some examples. And if you have questions as we roll through, feel free. And the first thing you're going to notice is our slides look very different than everybody else's. We aren't going to have 7 paragraphs on one slide. And I totally get it. There's a lot of information that needs to happen. But we have the high points, and so if you need further explanation, be sure and let us know, and we'll have a lot of follow-up resources for you as well. So buckle up. Today's landscape, I think you've pretty well heard it. I don't think I need to go into any great detail, and I was just very pleased that all of our numbers coincided with the numbers that you were hearing. Basically, there are more deals being done. Our company only works for financial institutions. And we've been really busy for the last 5 years with merger and acquisition activity, but there is more so right now. So we're seeing an increase within our own clientele, and again, we work for banks from west to east and north to south. So that's happening from all aspects we're seeing, and some varying asset sizes as well. In terms of the number of banks, the only thing that I can add to the comparative that has already been offered, that we're down to just under 5,000 banks, is the fact that here's I've got about 3 fun facts. The fun fact is now we're down to about 5,000 banks, but as my count effective a couple weeks ago, there are 10,650 fintechs. So as we continue to consolidate at kind of at warp speed, the fintechs are growing at an even faster speed. And a lot of us as banks are trying to find out, are we going to use a fintech as a platform, or are we going to end up being a platform for fintechs? So there are a lot of scenarios out there, but from a critical mass perspective, they're certainly outgrowing us. When I was getting my MBA forever ago, one of the most astounding statistics that I was given was that 75% of the time a merger or acquisition fails to enhance shareholder value. I mean, it can break even on shareholder value, but it actually fails to enhance shareholder value. And because we just work for banks, I thought this doesn't make sense because nobody's better at numbers than you guys. You know, I mean, by the time you leave this conference, you're going to have great blueprints on how to do everything right. And you hire the right talent externally and internally to do that for you. So it can't be that your numbers didn't work. It has to be something else. So we found as our company, which is strictly financial marketing, was used more and more in merger and acquisitions, and we got better at understanding it, we found that, A, we were invited generally very late to the party when things were really rolling. The attention for the communications plan was almost an adjunct. And, oh, yeah, we got to do that too. That needs to happen, so go take care of it. But it certainly wasn't a primary driver of turning opportunity into increased shareholder value. So while about 50% of marriages fail, even more than that of M&A acquisition transactions fail to do what they're supposed to do. And it's not about the numbers. So what is it about? It's about the relationships of the two entities that you put together and all of the things that ride around that. So the things that we're going to talk about today are those that emanate from how can you get more than what you paid for in terms of the customer base, in terms of the deposits. So it's not just a straightforward transaction that says, this is what we wanted, this is what we got, get on down the road. If you have a strategically thought out, upstream planned communication roadmap for yourself, and that's really what it is, you can generate and have higher expectations of getting growth in the lines of business that you choose, in terms of not just being in the market with a different logo slapped on the front, but something that means something to the market. So there are all kinds of things you can do. So as you look at your performance in an M&A transaction, the banking environment, you get an A in your legal and financials. You're doing all of those things well, and you're doing them right. The people component, it's a small group. I can be conversational. You suck, right? It's just the industry pretty much sucks. We don't pay attention sometimes to some pretty obvious headwinds that tell us we're going to have some issues with the people. We're going to have some issues with the culture. We're going to have some issues getting an understanding and a comfort zone of how these two teams work together. And if you don't do this, and we can tell you from personal experience, this was a bank group in Kansas where the bank never paid enough attention to the people issue. And what happened is soon after the acquisition, employee groups started nestling together and plotting the overthrow, right? How they can get their SVP in place rather than the one who was there. How they can ignore or be passive-aggressive in a lot of the things that management was doing. So, really bad things can happen if we don't address the people component and all the variations of that in a very proactive way. In terms of product relevance, this just amazes me. If we're going to do this deal, and you're going to go to all the trouble to take Sarah and her savings account and make her transcend to a new savings account, right? New experience, and both of them are a savings account that none of you in this room would consider having. Seriously, how many of you have a savings account at your own financial institution? Well, we're going to pay you 0.0001, and we're going to send you a statement annually because that costs money, right? We have a shelf full of products at most banks that aren't competitive. They're just there because we are too lazy. Thanks. She whispered it, lazy. We're too lazy to change it. And you can use the opportunity of an emerging M&A event to change that and say, rather than just transfer Helen from one nondescript, non-competitive, commoditized product to another, maybe we should think about doing something a little bit better. Because that's what the 10,650 financial technology companies are doing. And that's why bucket loads of consumer deposits are going out of banks and into the fintech funnel. Brand and social mission. If you noticed in the first presentation, there was a comparative that showed in all types of industries, the financial industry, I'm going to use the word again because it's such a nice group, sucks. Our brands suck in general. We have innocuous visions of being friendly, of being, we're the good people, we're here for you. So is everybody else in all the channels that are out there today. We're playing with table stakes when we look at who we are and the brand that we have. So the value of brand isn't high with banks. You're not going to see it on any of the, this is what I care about lists. It's not there. And as we go forward, we are finding that social mission and social justice and ESG, all of these things that tie into, I don't care so much what you do, because I can get banking services anywhere, but I care about who you are as a financial institution and what you stand for. And you have an opportunity. This is what makes me crazy. Can you tell I've had 2 Mountain Dews? So there. This is what really makes me crazy. We've worked for community and regional banks forever. And all of them, you know why we work for them? Because you're such good people and you do so many great things. You give a ton of money away all the time. Your philanthropic hearts are huge. And you don't tie it to things. You don't connect it to who you are as a company. You just do it because it's the right thing to do. And we can't do that today because people want to bank with an institution that they know is trying to make a difference from a social, environmental position. So you're giving the money, that's not the point. You're just not connecting your philanthropy with your pocketbook. And that's a hugely important thing for you to do. Look at the examples. There's a company called Tom's. They make shoes. They are not great shoes. They're actually pretty bad shoes. And I buy them because every time I buy a pair of Tom's shoes, they give a pair of Tom's shoes away. And that means something to me. This is the way people are thinking today and the way we need to be thinking. So aligning your social mission. So it may almost work to your advantage that we don't have strong brands because people aren't looking at brands right now. They are looking at the alternative, which is, what are you going to do for society, for the future, for kids? You know, how are you going to be bigger than you are? Right.
I will say, though, just because we're not scoring well in these 3 areas doesn't mean that there's not, I mean, that means there's huge room for opportunity. I think, you know, a merger or acquisition, I think, is a beautiful time to sort of open up the curtains and just say, okay, what do we have in front of us? How can we be better in these areas? And that it's a great opportunity to pull all those things together.
And this is why we're here today, is to talk to you about those things. Because we know you're getting the numbers right. What you may not be thinking about or getting right are these issues, and they make a really big difference. So the first thing you have to do is define your constituents. In any M&A transaction, you've got 3 groups. You've got your employees, you've got your customers, and you've got your market. And on either side of each one of those, you've got the employee of the legacy bank, you've got the employee of the acquired bank, and vice versa, right? You know, so you've got 6 entire communication lines that have to be dealt with very specifically and very separately because they're all coming from extremely different points of view. When we go into an M&A situation with a client, what do you think the primary focus is in their mind for the M&A? Who do they need to talk to? It's the market. You know, we need to tell the market, this is what we're going to do. This is a very big deal. What do you think is the most important of these 3 constituents? This is a big takeaway here. Absolutely. Without a doubt. If you were to break it into a pie chart, I want you to spend 70% of your time and money on your employees. As your employees believe, act, are informed, so will everything else in your plan. The customers and the market, absolutely, employees are the influencers to the customer and to the market. As their opinion goes, so will the opinion of customers, so will the opinion of the market. It is a huge issue, and the worst thing that you can ever hear, and you hear it all the time, customer approaches a bank and says, well, will I be able to keep my debit card? I don't know. They really haven't told me anything. That happens all the time, And we have to go so far past that into what is meaningful conversation so everybody can benefit. Now I have to show you this. Everybody in this room is a leader. You're here because you're leaders. And I was sitting in a board meeting at Bank Midwest 2 or 3 meetings ago, and one of the directors, we have just a moment in each board meeting where we spotlight a director and talk to them a little bit. And this gal was in HR for a huge healthcare system. And she said, I just want to show you something when you're talking about managing change and big events and things like that. She said, all of you guys have been thinking about, and you may not be doing it right now, but you're thinking about mergers and acquisitions as an option, right? As something that you, at the very least, need to be up to speed about so you can put it in your decision set, should that be a growth strategy that becomes more attractive than others, right? So, you're thinking about it. So you have it in the back of your head. When you go home, you've got all kinds of information. If you're actually going to do it, you've planned for months. By the time this thing happens, you are one of the first people off the blocks in the marathon to get this done, because you thought about it, you've done the scenarios, you know it works, you're the tip of the spear. This is what your employees see. They don't have the luxury of knowing what you have already vetted, what you have already gone through. But after months and months of you thinking about it, all of a sudden, I'm going to sit down with Shane, and in 30 minutes, I'm going to expect him to get all excited about a process. They're going, oh, can I do it again? Bad word. Oh, shit, right? This is happening to us, and this is happening to our bank. So we need to understand where your employee group is in the spectrum of understanding and being able to accept the change. You've had the luxury of being there a long time. They haven't. You put it on them late in the game, you expect a lot from them, and you want them to be really excited about the process. So please keep in mind, talk to people where they're at. And this will be helpful if you want to take anything back to your marketing department and their content provider or their writer. This would be a good model to take back so it gets in your head. Remember, 3 constituents and 2 subsets under each one. This is how you write to them. This is how you talk to them. So first of all, you have your legacy employees. If you're a legacy employee, you are not filled with joy about this acquisition, right? It's like, oh, hey, I had a really busy day job, and now I get to do this too. It's a lot more work for probably, at least initially, not a lot of benefit, not maybe any benefit to that particular job. So for them, it's just like, whew, these are some other things I have to do. It adds to stress. It doesn't add to excitement at all. And so how are you going to talk to these people and make them feel better? To your new employees, the bank that you're acquiring, they're terrified. You may tell them the famous phrase, and no one is going to lose their position for 1 year. So everyone's marking their calendar for 1 year and 1 day. I am going to be unhappy and scared for 1 year and 1 day until I know what's going on. So to help them understand some of the fears that they have and allay the ones that you can. Then you move down to the legacy customers. That is a big nothing burger, right? Your bank's buying somebody else. It doesn't mean anything to you as a customer of that bank, except guess what's going to happen? Up here, my legacy employees are now more tired, working harder on this, and I may not get as good a user experience as I used to. There may not be some of the marketing that happens and tells me about new products that otherwise I would have, because everybody's busy with the M&A. So the customers can just kind of be left out in the cold, and it can be, by the way, kind of lackluster performance for you for the year that you do all this work, because everybody's really busy doing something else. Your new customers look at, maybe it's time to shop around. I mean, Helen is my favorite contact at the bank, but they're going to have this acquisition, and she may not even be there, so maybe this is time to kind of look around. So they become at risk. And from the market, only one thing's going on. Well, do we need a new lender? We go cherry pick a lender, there's some disruption going on here. Who can we hire? Who can we get? So it becomes a recruitment thing for every other bank in the area saying, well, this is a great time for us to cherry pick the best talent out of the financial institution that's being purchased. So let's go back to the employees for a minute. And this is kind of a Captain Obvious. Anticipate as much as you possibly can for the employees what's going to happen to them. And to some extent to your legacy employees as well. And I know you can't be a complete fortune teller, but you've got to think through your employment in your whole, that it's all about efficiency. So who's going to stay, who realistically is going to go? Telling people up front is a kind and a good thing to do. If you don't, productivity during the time, they showed the timeline this morning of going through the acquisition, productivity will plummet. When people don't know what's happening to them personally, they're going to be very fearful. That's going to take over. Really, a lot of non-productive time is going to be clocked. And no news is good news. You think because you don't have anything to say for a while about the transaction that you shouldn't talk to your employees. Wrong. You need to talk to them every single week. And even if your message is, we got nothing, everybody's still sitting on their hands, everything stays the same, that's news. Because if you don't provide news on a regular basis to your employees, rumors are more than happy to take their place. And they will. And the longer you don't talk, the better the rumors become. All right, so there are two things in this presentation that Sarah and I called Do These Anyway. Whether you're just researching M&A or you're actively planning, do these two things anyway. So the number one do things anyway is you are going to be really, really busy if somebody pulls the trigger of opportunity and you're going to do a deal. So you need to make sure that you can get a hold of the people that you need to get the job done that you have to. This is an example from Bank Midwest, and I'm using with their permission. And there are like 3 slides here. I'm going to go really fast, but I kind of want to scare you. This is how, for any type of, this is a particular upgrade. They upgraded their online and mobile banking. You use this same process for an M&A. Use this same process for a conversion. But these are the types of things that you need to do. The example actually starting over here is when you want the whole thing is you've got to get everybody's information. If you can't talk to them, if you can't email them, we're in big trouble. So you send number one, hard copy letter. You have to send a letter telling people that you're going to send them emails because we're going to ask them to confirm their information. And what have we been spending money telling them for the last 3 years? Don't answer that email. That's spam, don't do it. So you have to reassure your customers, yes, we are going to be emailing you. Yes, we do need your information updated, and you need to get back to us, so do that hard copy. Then what you're going to do is create a personal landing page. This is a sample of the business landing page and the personal landing page. So I, Becky Drahota, get a letter, says, okay, they're going to email me. They email me and say, we need to update your personal information and all of your contact information. There is an auto-filled, if you can see, they auto-fill all the information, and if it's current, they go click. You're done. Finished. And it's a personalized URL, so it goes straight in a security environment, highly securitized environment, and you're done. And if you're not done, it gives you other opportunities to go ahead and correct that information. Make sense? You got to do it. This shows the actual back end. And this, I just wanted to impress you that what happens is, you reach out and contact people, and a lot of them go, yeah, whatever, I'll do that again. And so you've got to talk to them. The people in this customer group were touched up to 7, 8, 9 times because we had to get that information. And it also shows it's an if-then back. So if this person doesn't answer in 3 times, then bam, they're going to get a phone call from the call center. But by that point, you've winnowed your list down that it's very doable. Just a couple more thoughts. Again, with the personal landing page, be sure that you always give everybody an option B. You know, they can click if all the information's good, and if they make a change, they may be, oh, I don't know how to do that, it makes me nervous. Give them a phone number. You know, give them another way to get a hold of us to take care of that. And the final thing I want to show you with this communication is you got to tell people why. This is an example of the business autofill. And for business, let me read this to you real quick, right in the middle of the email. There are lots of reasons why it's important to have your current contact information, from mailing a new debit card to providing fraud alerts to assessing upgraded services. Having your correct information is key in keeping you informed and keeping you safe. So tell them why you're doing it, you know, not just to be cool. All right? So this is super simple, and then this just tells you, and that you just get stronger with your vocabulary as you go through the process. We'd like you to, it's time to, you have a week left, final reminder, we're going to call you. So that's your progression. All right, so make sure you're going to do that anyway on a regular basis. That way you can pivot very quickly. Another thing we found out, Sarah, do you want to talk to privacy policies?
So things get a little bit sticky between, you know, the announcement, between closing, between, you know, conversion. So there are a lot of different parts and pieces along this path. And then, so we have to have certain communication at different times. But what gets a little bit sticky is once closing happens, it typically is a while before you actually convert. So there's an odd period of time where you technically are together, but you're operating separately. So I would say, kind of circling back to what Becky just showed, if you can, during that time, once the purchase is final, and if there's a gap before, you know, conversion, if you can work in alignment with, you know, whomever you're purchasing to do that, because the privacy policy piece is something, it gets a little sticky. You have to, if they have a separate privacy policy in terms of communication, then you have to sort of merge those to make sure you're not, you know, messing up one or the other. But if they can conduct a campaign to get all the contact information up to date, that's wonderful, and you can be doing that at the same time, because as we'll continue to talk about, there are a lot of things that we have to communicate throughout this process, and the more up-to-date information, the more you have, you know, via email, the better. So this is just basically a reminder to do this up front. You know,
right.
Take a look at those privacy policies and make sure they're not fighting.
Right. M&A components and timeline, it wouldn't be a seminar if we didn't have one eye chart kind of slide, so we put in a couple. This is a little bit of the secret sauce, but this shows I think the rigor and the discipline that needs to go into your communication plan. You have here letter of intent, closing, conversion, 3 critical audiences. If you give your employees this time frame, a lot of the fear and trepidation is going to really tamp down. You know, if they feel that they're part, it's like all of us. If you're part of the change, then it's not so scary. Make them part of the change. You know, show them what's happening, share the timeline with them, get their input and have their responses in terms of feedback to you, and provide lots of support in terms of how messaging from wherever this plan is goes out to the rest of the group. Specifically, this is, yep. And I have hard copy too. I mean, you know, I'm just telling you, this is it. This is what you have to do in an M&A. And it starts with the letter of announcement, the regulatory approval. You know, we've got all of the trigger points of the process in there, and then the different colors indicate whether it is the employee, the customer, the market. So, you know, you've got the potential of having 6 different things under every single one of those items. And then you have to plan it out on a master timeline to make sure everything triggers as it should, so people get mapped where they need to go.
Of course, I'm sure you all know this, but obviously this has to start far, far, far in advance, because a lot of these things are due, you know, in people's hands 30, 60 days ahead of when the actual change is going to take place. So you have to work backwards for many months to get that printed in hand or emailed or, however it is you're going to deliver that information.
Right, so it's no joke. We have to think about this. Just think about it as you're making this type of a sea change. If you haven't, do you want to go to .bank? With all of the fraud and cybersecurity things going on, if you're going to get a .bank, it means that you have to be a real bank. I mean, you've got to jump through, that's the whole issue, is you've got to jump through a lot of hoops to be .bank. You have to prove you're a real bank. And that going forward could be an important thing, because it really ensures that from a breach and fraud and hacking perspective, it does make you safer. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. Right now, out of the 5,000 banks that we have, 673 are .bank, and we are seeing some state banking organizations start to purport and promote that as well. So cook's choice, but if you're going to do it, might be the time to think about it. A quick note here, there's a flurry of activity when you make your first press release that pending regulatory approval, right? This is going to happen. And then it's kind of, which we call the dead zone. And that's when rumors can really take flight. So here, the debate, if you're writing notes, the big takeaway is landing page, M&A landing page. Create a landing page for the process where you can inform your customers, inform the public, give some color to the history of the organizations, really try to infuse the landing page with everything people need to feel comfortable about what's happening, and that'll help you get through the dead zone.
Well, and we recommend using a landing page because things are changing constantly, and because you're not going to know every answer to every question right away. But if you have something that's dynamic and you can continue to update and constantly let people go to a resource for everyone, that's going to be much easier than trying to continually communicate out all of that information.
So is your landing page for employees and customers, or are those?
So typically not necessarily for employees. We will do something internally, maybe on the intranet or whatever. Yeah, but we do typically have like an FAQ or an M&A landing page for both current customers, but also we put it on the whoever you're acquiring's site as well, kind of in their terms, so they know what's going on.
Do the regulators permit that?
Mm-hmm.
Even though the deal hasn't been approved?
Well, we try not to do anything until it's actually approved. We don't do the pending regulatory approval on a landing page yet. That's when the deal is, when they're purchased, we can get those up. We can't do that before.
So I'm not sure if the deal has been approved, then what's in the dead zone between approval and what?
That's when the press release goes and nothing else happens.
Correct.
So what you want to do is make sure that you're using the dead zone to get your landing page prepared, so when that happens, you can roll out with a landing page that's relevant, that's got everything that you need, and your employees are trained on it. You can't start that.
Right.
It's got to go.
And because you won't have any information or answers at that point. But what you can do is put something on your website that basically just says, this is possibly happening. You can do an announcement on your own site.
But get your landing page ready.
Yeah.
Get it prepped and ready to roll. And just a quick, you're going to be able to know, we do a lot of these, and you're going to be able to anticipate 99% of the questions you're going to get. Mm-hmm. Will my debit card change? And is my long term going to stay the same? It's pretty normal. Lessons learned, and this is from a communications perspective. This is not a democracy, okay? When the group that is going to be putting this together should be small, and it should be filled with decision makers. Your compliance person should be there, your line of business manager or really thought center should be there, and you want to make sure that you've got people who can affect the change, and the changes in copy and content are not done for personal reasons. That can bog you down and really mess things up. Small is better. The smaller the group for your communications plan, the better.
And IT.
IT, of course, and IT, and IT. Best practices. Want to show you, because I know we don't have a lot of time, but I really want to show you this. This is the second do anyway thing, and I didn't put it on a slide because I didn't know the tenor of the room particularly. I'm going to show you something from a credit union. And I share all your feelings about that. But the first dot point in terms of best practices, nobody loves change, empathy tempered with enthusiasm. I mean, it's the people part on your report card is, do you know what you're buying? Do you know what you're getting? Do they know what they're getting? How does that work? And one of our clients, it is a credit union, and I'll kind of be Vanna White here, had us put this together and said, you know what? Merger and acquisition is going to be a line of business for us going forward. We may not buy anybody. We may not, we may not do it, but we are going to treat M&A as something we pay attention to every quarter. We look at what's going on. We understand what the opportunity is, because as a growth strategy, in some months, some years, it's not going to make any sense for you, but other times it will. So See First said, we want to be ready. And so we want you to develop, they called it the pitch book. And they said, we want something where we can take up to a potential bank that we acquire, and they will understand fundamentally who we are. So we developed the pitch book, and here are the important things for me to show you about it. What they have in the pitch book is literally, this is where we are, here's the history of the company, here's the, your obligatory mission, vision, values, but more important, on this page, they said, this is who we serve. This is what we do for kids, and this is our strongest audience. They're this old, and they do this type of thing. So you can see what the customer base looks like. We show how we're growing in the different lines of business, and they give a dollar amount for average balances in accounts, for how much money they give away. It's enough information on who we are from a financial behavior perspective. 4 years worth of financial highlights right here. And how we connect. Remember the social mission versus the brand? This is all social mission. This is all the giving that you do in the community. Why choose us? Love this, where we're going. Who we want to partner with, who we want in our organization. Rather than, I'm 103, so I've been doing this a long time, and we get a lot of banks who come up and say, we hadn't planned on this, but this bank just came up for sale. You be the initiator. You be out there saying proactively what you want. And so what we're saying is, this is what we want as See First. This is the kind of growth we want. This is what we want to do. This is what we want to be. And then, by the way, here's some cool things that we offer that you may not offer. So it's called Pitch Book. And we update it regularly, and it's there. So should an M&A opportunity avail itself, you got everything. And everything is modular, so if you wanted to do it all digital, you can update stuff per page, which I think is exciting. Boom, you've got it updated. We found, fun fact number 2, that your commercial team loves this. They like taking it out to prospects. They like to, so there may be more uses for this than just getting ready for M&A. Sarah, I went through that really fast.
No, that's...
But in addition to getting your information up to date, your contact information, your customer information, getting something like this ready, treating M&A like an ongoing line of business and not a one-time earth-shattering event will really help people to not be scared when you say, now we're talking about M&A every month at board meetings or every quarter at board meetings, just because. Then when and if it happens, it's not going to be scary. Staff up. Your people are going to get tired. And again, I think what might happen here is the legacy bank just suffers from a so-so year because they just don't have the energy to do more than what they've been asked to do with helping.
Well, and staffing up is frankly one of the biggest mistakes I've seen. You know, our clients really believe that everything is just going to go, they've planned, they've done everything they're supposed to do, and it's just going to go swimmingly. We haven't been through one of these, and we've been through many where everything has gone perfectly. So staffing up in terms of, you know, service, training, customer support, you know, there is always something.
Guaranteed. Shiny objects are fun. Bring pizza to everyone, you know, when they're not expecting it. Put your CEO and your directors in shirt sleeves when times are tough and something goes wrong, and have them deliver sub sandwiches to the rest of the team. It will mean a lot. Real quickly, Sarah, do you want to rip through that, or should I it's really good to use. It's really good to use both logos rather than one logo in initial conversations, because it's friendlier and it looks more congenial. So we would recommend that. Joint signatures, the same. I don't know who this guy is, but oh, that's my guy or my gal. I know them. It makes me more comfortable.
So are you saying that in terms of
Letters.
to your employee communications, or to your
Customers, yeah, mostly customers, and to the market.
And to the employees that you will be bringing on to your team, you know, having
Yes.
that introduction both ways is
All the way
important.
through, you want shoulder to shoulder. You know, you don't want it coming from one or the other. You want to say this. After approval. After approval. Sarah, go.
So I will go quickly through these, and I actually have some hard copies if you want to look at these, but this is an example of, well, this is a conversion checklist, so this is a little bit different. This is when they actually convert. So this is an employee piece that, you know, kind of takes people through what the changes are going to be, et cetera. But you can move to the next one. And this, basically what it is, and I have it hard copy if you want to take a look, but it's trying to get ahead of some of that chaos that comes along with conversion. So, you know, ideally you've gotten through the acquisition, things have been settled, maybe settled down for a few months, and now you come to conversion, and obviously there's, you know, a whole lot of things that have to happen. So the communication chain ramps back up again. And that obviously, you know, for the customer is not a huge deal if all goes well with the employee piece. So we spend a lot of time communicating, trying to answer questions, and trying to get employees comfortable with the conversion. Then obviously there's the customer piece of this. This is an example of, we do a lot of these, but it's essentially a mapping piece. This is the one piece that has to get out
Regulatory-wise.
Regulatory-wise,
This is your big dog.
this is what you basically says you had this account, now you're going to have this account. So it maps all of the products, and we found that doing this just in one big, you know, one big grid is a lot easier than having to mail out every single account change. So this is the piece that sort of covers our bases, and then we do some follow-up letters to specific account holders if they have a specific change that doesn't fall within this.
Okay, we're down to 1 minute, and we will get you out. So here are the outcomes that you want. You've got 3 constituencies in any M&A, and what you're after, first of all, is you want certainty for your employees. You want them to understand what's going on and be okay with what's going on. For customers, we don't want to drop the ball. One thing I would suggest, just a la carte, is from a marketing perspective, plan a couple marketing campaigns that you have in your back pocket and have them done, so you can trigger them whenever you want to through the M&A process, and your whole legacy market and your legacy customers are going to feel like they're being paid attention to. But do it way ahead of time and have it. And from the market, you want to be a stronger competitor. And if these things happen, which your communication plan is designed to do, it's going to result in your employees are going to have confidence. And your employees are what? They're the influencer. They become the tip of the spear for the customer and the market. And if they become the tip of the spear and they're confident and they have certainty, then, oh, hey, we're not only going to retain customers, but we're going to grow. And we're going to do things like not, well, this is just what I bought. No, it's like, in the market, this is a stronger competitor. It's just not a bank with another logo on it. So all in all, if you have a strategically planned and executed merger and acquisition communications, what you're going to end up with are relationships between both organizations that are built to last and to accelerate profitable growth. Woo! We are, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being interested in the topic. We really believe
questions?
it's pivotal. Yeah, go for it.
How many of you been doing this for 45 years?
That's, yep, I have. Let's just say I started the company when I was too young and dumb to know that there probably wasn't much chance of succeeding. And
I think she's got have you seen Benjamin Button? I think she might be aging backwards. It's a rare talent. Yeah, that's the key.
Evidently, that could be it. Again, this is important, and we're really, really happy that you took the time to explore that. Yes?
I know you're going to say it depends, but one of these, this pitch book,
Uh-huh.
what does it cost to put one together?
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Depending on content and style, whatever, a few $1,000s probably.
Yeah, I mean it's not a huge high ticket item, and you can start fairly modestly. But I think it just, to me, when they first told me that was the assignment years ago, I thought, get out of here. You're going to put a whole brochure together for that, and boom. I mean, it is just really, really worked well. So I can give you some numbers so you have for your budget. But I know, it's lunchtime. Thank you for much. Take care.